Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, what today's video is on is another kit car. This is made by a company called Dax. It's a Dax Kamala, designed by apparently one of the employees of Dax. The front looks a little bit like a duck-billed platypus, although it's probably meant to look a bit Formula One-y. So that is very much an acquired taste, I'd say, on the front end. The back end looks distinctly Lotus, stroke sort of mini RS200. If we can get around here and have a look at that. I actually really like the back. You've got the reverse faced Sierra Cosworth bonnet vents in the back, obviously to let air in as opposed to letting air out as they do on the Sierra Cosworth. You've got some vents there to let air out, and again on the back. Yeah, I absolutely love the back. It's a lovely looking thing. The cockpit, or the centre of the car, looks distinctly futuristic, or trying to look futuristic. It's a bit like one of those cars that, you know, those 80s or 90s cars that are trying to look really futuristic. Still look very dated, I'd say. It's when you look round and see what potentially looks like Mark 1 Fiesta headlights mounted, and yeah, there's I don't know what the wing mirrors are. The front windscreen looks a bit like an aircraft windscreen, but whether you like the front or not, or whether you like the whole lot, it's a really interesting car. Now, the reason we've got this in is to do a service on the engine, really. It's not in for a rebuild. Now, you probably ask why we've got it if it's only in for a sort of service on the engine. Well, many of you know that we specialise in the YB Cosworth engines. You know, we've always got a Cosworth or two. We've got one there, obviously one there that you know about. So, bit of a giveaway that. But in the back here is a Sierra Cosworth engine. So that makes this car even more interesting, I'd say. Whereas the engine in the Sierra is sort of longitude, this is sideways on a different gearbox. I'm not 100% sure what the gearbox is out of, really, but it's definitely not a Sierra, obviously. It's rear-wheel drive. This particular engine has got hybrid turbo. It's running about 350 horsepower on dark green Bosch injectors. You know, the usual stage 3 trick bits. So what we've got it in for is a service, a cam out, a good check over. The owner, just excuse me, put this, stay up. So yeah, the owner bought this car a few years ago, got it for an absolute steal, really, when you consider what I suppose it wasn't so much at the time, but bear in mind this is quite a rare car now, and you know, these engines, a donor engine now is probably £6,000-7,000 in a bit of a tired state, but this is a particularly good engine. The body is obviously fiberglass, so I shouldn't think this car weighs any more than a ton, if that. As I say, we've got it in for a service. We've done the cam out. Obviously, on the trouble is with this engine, because you've got the inlet over at the far side, whereas on the Cosworth, if you were looking at the front of the car here, you'd have the engine mounted here with the cam out at the front. You'd have the inlet on this side, and you can actually get to everything. But on this, it's tucked right up against that bulkhead, and you can't get at bugger all, to be honest with you. So we've had a good look round there. It got a pipe off the dump valve, which is an aftermarket thing. So it's got a couple of vacuum leaks. So we've sorted that out. Got a bit of an iffy idle control valve. We've given it a fresh set of genuine spark plugs. Obviously, genuine oil filter and some motorsport oil. The Dax actually put this engine in. As I say, this car was built or designed in 1995. And they actually used an XR, what we found out was an XR2 header tank, which had a big old split in it, leaking water everywhere. And as you may know, that XR2 or old Ford bits are pretty scarce now, and trying to get another header tank was an absolute no-no. So we've took this Mark III Mondeo header tank, adapted it on there, so it, you know, we needed something that was pretty shallow, really, obviously because of the boot there, and not much room underneath. So I think that looks quite tidy now. It looks quite nice, although it's not original from Dax, but then it's a kit car, isn't it? So everything's just got to sort of serve a purpose. So this engine's been on the shelf for a day or two, and I've just managed to find time to strip it. It's a CB125J, which is a 1978. This engine came in with a seizure, or potential seizure, and having got it to bits, the piston, as you can see over here, is definitely nipped up. But not only that, I think what's actually caused the seizure is the pin there has seized inside the rod. You know, we get little jobs like this, not just sort of race engines and classic car engines. We do get quite a few bikes. We've got one over there, as you can see, which I've still got to do. But the customer with this, you know, it's not just an no expense spared with us. You know, this customer here has not got a huge budget, bless him. So we were hoping that the bottom end would be okay, and there's absolutely no movement in the rod there at all. I think this thing had run very slightly short of oil, starved, you know, the top end, and maybe overheated and seized the piston. I don't know what's happened, but the bottom end feels absolutely perfect. And I've cleaned up the rod in there. Unfortunately, it's a 15mm pin, and I've got another pin which I've tried in there, and it's an absolute lovely smooth fit. So I've rang the customer, gave him the option, and he's going to go with just leaving the bottom end. We've ordered an oversized piston. You see the barrel there is not looking too great. I've refaced the barrel, refaced the head. The guides are perfect, so I'm just going to clean these seats up, make sure that the valves vacuum okay, and rebore the barrel, new piston kit, build it all back up, and away he goes, hopefully. Right, an update on the Cosworth, which I did a video about, saying that this thing's been apart for sort of 3 or 4 times before. As I said to you before, the head's all built up there, you can see that. Everything's ready to go. Everything's sort of painted. See the sump down there is all cleaned and painted. The crank's all checked, as I said. Rods are checked. So yesterday the tooling finally arrived. Waiting for things at the moment is an absolute nightmare. We've got the block here, and what the tooling was for, I'll just remind you, was to put the oil spray jets, you know, the modern type oil spray jets. We're actually on this one, we're using a BMW spray jet, and I don't know whether you can see that, but we machine into the main oil gallery, which is all the way down here. Machine in there, 16mm flats on with an 8x1 thread through, and those oil jets will fit lovely in there. These are the oil jets we're using. They're just got a banjo bolt there, and a sort of 16mm round head. So we're going to get this engine together today. Hopefully we get all the block cleaned up. We're going to put the crank, first thing we're going to do is put the crank in, then we're going to put a piston onto a rod and put the pistons down the hole, and then I've got to check, because I've decked the block slightly, and these are new pistons, we're actually using a Cosworth Kamala piston this time. Just get one of these pistons out and show you. So they're a plain top, so what I'm going to do is get my deck height right, which means machining some off the top of the piston to get the right height, and then I'm going to put my own valve pockets in. That's what I do on those. get the, you know, get the right depth of valve pocket in there. And then this thing's ready to build. So hopefully later on in the day, do a little update video, see how we're getting on with that. Right, cheers guys. I'll do another video later. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.